Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 134 of the Debt Free Dad podcast. So, do you have a hard time maybe leaving your savings alone? Like, maybe you get some money put away. Let's say you build your emergency fund, or maybe you're saving up or trying to save up for a purchase, and you find that that money that you're saving is burning a hole in your pocket, and you end up spending some of it, or maybe all of the money, kind of putting you and setting you back, right? Today, we're going to be sharing some tips that have helped us leave our savings alone so we aren't sabotaging our savings efforts and goals. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Debt Free Dad podcast, where we're helping normal, everyday people learn how to save money and kick debt so they can live a happier and stress-free life. Now here's your host, Debt Free Dad, Brad Nelson.
Hey, how is everyone doing today? You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search Brad Nelson, Debt Free Dad. And as always, welcome to today's show. Remember to get all the resources, show notes, and links from today's show. You can head over to balancedcents.com/134. That's BALANCEDCENTS.com/134. So today we're talking a little bit more about savings. You know, over these last couple of episodes that we've had over the last 4 to 6 weeks, we've been kind of talking about, again, going back to some of the basics. And we do hear, or at least I do hear quite often, you know, when people are getting started, that this whole habit or creating a habit of saving, it can be difficult, right? In fact, if you look at statistics of saving here in the United States, and even really saving in Canada, and I've even read articles in Australia, and saving is a pretty hard habit for a lot of us, I think. And I think a big part of it, guys, is we live, especially here in the United States. Amber, you can speak for Canada, representing Canada. But I think we live in an overspending society, right? I mean, so this whole idea and creating this whole habit of saving, I think, is very foreign to a lot of us. It was for me when I first got started, right? And so when you're constantly already having those habits of overspending, spending everything that you make, and you're kind of used to not having any money saved, like, there's nothing keeping you really from dipping into that savings when you finally actually have some money. And I was kind of that person, that whole saying of, you know, if that money's burning a hole in your pocket, I would always be tempted to use it. And I would find myself typically using it for dumb purchases. Like, if it wasn't in my budget and all of a sudden friends called me up and said, hey, you want to go out or hang out or whatever, and I know I just did my monthly budget and I know, like, the money's not there, guess what? I would dive into that emergency fund and I would use the excuse, well, I'm just going to go out this once, right? And it took me a while to kind of get over that. It took me a long while, actually.
Well, that's where the struggle lies, though, Brad. Like, if you see the success, in air quotes, that friends are having with all their stuff and the things they do and all the fun they're having, and oh my gosh, they must be so successful. Why am I not getting that? So I'm just going to go do it and overspend anyway.
Yeah. And well, it's not even success. Well, there is part of that too, success, but there's also just FOMO, is fear of missing out, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I don't care if it's hanging out with your friends or being tempted to use money that you've saved up for, you know, if work is stressful or life is stressful, you might, especially, you know, right now we're in the thick of summer, you might have that, you know, that temptation to use some of that money to go on an unplanned vacation, right? Take some time off and get away, treat yourself, right? It's a mental break that you need. And yeah, I mean, you hear this stuff all the time. So it's not only just social influence, but if you look at the, you know, marketing is just really that good too. And, marketing is very good at getting us to spend money that we either have saved up or that we don't have saved at all. And of course, you know, people are going to debt to afford some of those things as well. So I think, you know, there's a legitimate reason. Like, if you're listening to this episode and you're like, yeah, I'm one of those people, right? Well, you're not alone, number one. I used to be one of those people too, but I think there's a reason why a lot of us struggle with this, and that's because of these things. It's this overspending in society, it's the social influence, and it is the regular marketing of overconsumption, debt. You know, those things are all going to play a role in your success, I think.
I think savings too it's, and I don't know, when we talk about this too, I mean, there's emergency savings and then there's just like general savings, right? There's your emergency fund, which I felt like we did a better job of treating that separately, and we never did touch that. But where we struggled was like, we're going to buy new furniture for our living room. And it's like, it's going to be $3,000 and we're going to put $100 every month towards this furniture. Well, what you're talking about is like, that's almost 3 years worth of savings to buy new furniture for your living room. And where we would struggle is like, we don't really want new furniture. We would rather go out this week, or we would rather, buy something different and I think that's where we really struggled, is like when we just didn't, the things we were quote unquote saving for just weren't important enough to us. Like we just were like, we're going to buy new living room furniture, but then we were using the money for other things. It's like, well, is the furniture really that important? Is that why you're dipping into it? Like we just kind of struggle with that. So once we started getting specific and getting better at really saying this is what we want, then we were better savers. We weren't perfect. We always, to this day, we still like, we're going to save for this. And then it's like, do we really want to do that? We still struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you bring up a good point that I think for a lot of us, we need to set up some sort of a meaningful goal. And I think, when you first kind of brought up your point, you mentioned, what types of savings are we talking about? In my opinion, I think I'm talking about it all, because I see people dipping into a lot of different types of savings. I see people dip into their retirement accounts, whether it be for an emergency expense, or I've had people dip in their retirement accounts for vacations, and they take out a 401k loan for maybe some home remodeling that need to get done, or even, like you said, Ryan, new furniture. Like I've seen those types of things. I've seen people take money out of their emergency funds for things that aren't necessarily emergencies. So I think it kind of covers the gamut of savings, whether it's retirement, investment accounts, whatever kind of goal you have, there's sometimes, especially when you get started, there's this temptation to use that money as kind of a fallback if for some reason you can't afford whatever it is that you want in that moment. But yeah, I think you bring up a good point of just having, that goal. And Amber, we've brought this up before. You guys had a savings goal when you guys were getting ready to buy your house. You guys are saving up for a down payment, and you guys like created kind of almost like a goal color chart, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
It was something fun to keep us on track and to be very visual. So,
right.
I just drew a silly picture of a house in a garage because that's what we wanted. And we colored in little boxes until we got our 20% down. And that was our goal. But I think the big thing, though, when you're saving, whether you're saving for a big goal, little goals, whatever it is, you got to kind of sit down and think, is this really going to help me get there? Right? How, if I go out to dinner and spend $150, how far behind and now am I going to get on this goal?
Right.
And you kind of got to look at it that way, that give and take, right? Because sometimes it might be worth it to make it last, take a little longer to get to what you want with your savings. And a lot of times it's not.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too, in some cases, a lot of us, including myself at one time, but a lot of other people, I think they don't realize that failures in saving is part of learning how to save. It's okay that it happens. What is not okay is that it forces it forces you to quit almost at the end of the day. And you're just not going to save because saving doesn't work for you. It does work. You just need to practice the habit more often. And I kind of compared it in our notes here today. One of the things I wanted to bring up is this kind of like the whole, don't touch the hot stove. Right? If you touch the hot stove once, not to touch it again. And it's kind of the same thing when it comes to, building better habits, financial habits, building a healthier financial mindset. The only way to do that is by taking action, screwing up, and being willing to take more action again and learn from your mistakes and what are some things that we can fix and improve on. I kind of compare it to like, doctors practice medicine. All of us need to kind of have a commitment to practice healthy financial habits. It's a practice. Nobody ever becomes just maybe some people claim they do, but I don't think I ever will, but an expert of financial habits. Like, I don't feel like I will ever get there. I feel it's always going to be something consciously that I'm going to have to choose to do because, again, we're emotional people. I get sucked into some of the marketing and ideas and things that are out there, or I see somebody else have something and I get brought into some of that stuff too. But what ended up happening over the years for me is that I self-sabotaged my saving efforts so much that I finally was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, I've got to stick to the plan. And that was the only way that I got better at it. That was the only way. And today I don't struggle nearly as much with savings as I did, say, 10, 12 years ago when, I first started doing some of this stuff. So I think a lot of it just comes down to the commitment of you're going to practice saving your money and knowing that you're going to wake up some days and you're going to fail at it. You're going to end up spending some of that money, but it's just that ongoing commitment that we're going to use this as a learning experience to keep going. The other thing too is, setting yourself up for success, I think is key. One of the things that I've done, one of the things that I did very early on, especially when I started building my emergency fund, is I separated my savings account where I had my small emergency fund when I got started, like completely from my debit card. I made it really hard to have to go and get the money. Like I had to go to the physical branch in my local town to get the money out to be able to use the money. And so what I see sometimes people doing is they'll open up a savings account for a savings goal. And, again, they're still working on those habits, but either they have connection with a debit card or they have direct connection with transferring the money over to their checking account where the debit card is, right? So this kind of comes back to a lot of things that we talk about on this show is really looking at and monitoring, okay, what are the habits that are keeping you stuck? What is the spending habits? What are the patterns that you're seeing that are really kind of messing up your plan? And then what are some things that you can put into place to keep you from doing those things? So again, you're not sabotaging your savings efforts. So again, it's all about looking at yourself. What are our habits and what my habits are versus what Ryan's habits are and what Amber's habits are? We're all different, right? And this kind of comes down to more self-reflection of, okay, really looking back and saying, okay, where are the areas that we keep screwing this up? One of the things that I think would really help is budgeting too. Maybe it's a budgeting issue. Maybe when you're doing your monthly budget or you're trying to do your monthly budget, you're not budgeting enough for certain categories, or you're forgetting certain categories altogether, which could be happening. And it's not that you're doing it on purpose. It's just maybe your budgeting process needs to be improved upon, right? So again, as you're kind of continuously working on this and making that daily commitment to do what we call as the Roots 15, you're spending 15 to 20 minutes a day working on your finances. These are the things that you should be looking for. Like Amber brought up too, and I just want to kind of highlight this, is just, and Ryan, you both kind of brought this up already, is just, making sure that you make those goals meaningful enough for you. If you're saving for the sake of just, I'm going to save just to save, you're probably not going to make it too far, right? And we see these, Amber, you'll see people like inside Roots that'll use like those, what are they? Like every day you put in a certain amount of money and by the end of the year, you'll have X amount of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen those before?
I've seen those. I've seen those on TikTok and stuff too.
Yeah. Have you guys used one of those before?
Honestly, I've never used it because I'm not a cash person. So
yeah.
I just like to have my money just saved the amount that we plan. But I don't think having savings just for savings isn't a bad idea though.
I don't think it is either, but I don't think when you're getting started, I don't think it's going to be enough for most people. And I think that's why they're not very good at saving.
Yeah. I think the behaviors when you're first starting out are tough. I mean, it's, for the first time, I remember the first time we saved any money. And then it's like, kind of like you said at the beginning, I mean, my whole life, I remember being a kid, if I had $2, I mean, it was burning a hole in my pocket. I couldn't wait to go spend it. And it was the same as I got money as older and we started learning how to save. It was like, man, we have like this much money. What do you think we should do with it? And like you asked about those savings challenges like that, without a meaningful goal behind it, I think for me, it would be too enticing once there was any money, a few $100s in that envelope to be like,
right.
I want to go spend it on this because I didn't really have a plan for it. And just to save it is just my mindset is like, I'm spending it on something once it reaches a certain point.
Right.
Sometimes it's hard. Okay. I know I had a meaningful goal. I had the house, whatever. We don't have anything set per se, and we're saving retirement or whatever and other savings that don't necessarily have an end goal. But for me, I kind of just like to have the savings. I don't necessarily like to make these big audacious goals either,
right?
Because it's like sometimes you don't want to dig deep.
Yeah, but do you feel
into those goals?
But
for somebody like me who's like, I don't know if I have a set goal or if I can dig deep enough to find a meaningful enough goal, because not everybody likes the meaningful deep stuff.
Right. But when you got, let's ask you this way. Let me ask you it this way. So when you started and when you joined Roots and you started going through Roots, were you good at saving then?
Definitely not.
All right.
But like the whole thing, the emergency fund was the easiest.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I just kind of had a purpose. But after that, had we not had the house, I don't know if we would have saved as much.
Right.
I guess. But maybe we would have, because we didn't necessarily know exactly what we wanted. And eventually the opportunity arose and we decided to do XYZ.
Right.
But
So
sometimes
again,
it's just good to have savings.
Right, exactly. And hopefully, like you said, if you have an issue with, finding like a deep-rooted purpose for saving, maybe you're someone who's like Amber, who just learned like having an emergency fund is important. Here's why. And that was enough for you. But would you agree or disagree that over that time period that you not only got out of debt, because it took you guys about 20 months to get out of debt, and do you feel like your mindset changed though? So you got to the point where you are now, where you're saying, like, I just like to save just to save now, because you've built like this new mindset over the last 6 years, and you realize like what having some money put away, whether, and we're just using saving in general, whether it's investing, retirement, emergency fund, whatever, sinking funds. Do you feel like that's helped you get to the point where you are today?
Well, definitely the habits, like we talked about earlier, the habits are a huge thing. So the habit of saving for the emergency fund helped us, I guess, eventually save for our house, and pay off our debt.
Right.
So really the habits we built building the emergency fund helped in a lot of the other steps to do so. Yeah. But now, like, I found it a game almost. And maybe that's why we were successful, because I made it a game and now investing, it's a game. I'm a gambler.
Yeah. Bingo, right?
Heck yeah.
But no, I think you kind of bring up a good point, and why I think building that first emergency fund for so many, because people on the outside, people have always said, Brett, like you're telling people that they should build a small emergency fund, $1,000 to $3,000. Like, that's not that much money. Why is that such a big deal? It's not necessarily about the amount. It's about the habit that it creates. And that's where we're trying to get people moving more towards, is like, no, I don't want you to have to be able to like become this, like, be a super saver, but not to the point where you're saving everything and you're not having any fun. Like, it's just, we got to get people to the point where they're able to save some money, leave it alone, because once you're out of debt, you're going to have a heck of a lot more money that you can play with, right? Whether you save it, whether you spend it, whatever you decide to do with it. And if you don't have that habit created and you don't see the value, very much like Amber, you just pointed out, you just laid this out perfectly. If you haven't created that by then, now you just have a lot of money that you can just piss away, right? You're not really saving anything. So, the idea is to get people more towards, spending is okay, enjoying your life is okay, but at the same time, you got to start setting some money aside for emergencies, and also obviously for, investing into your future and whatever retirement goals that you have. And I think that's why, I think that first win, I think for me, is probably one of the most crucial ones as people are getting started. All right. Another thing that you guys can do too is create and have some sort of an accountability agreement, maybe a list, maybe a person. Now, a person is hard, admittedly. Like, we've talked about this plenty of times on this show.
You deserve it. You know how many times somebody said that to me? You deserve it.
You should
just do it.
Right. That's why
you go.
Yeah. How many? Yeah. That's there. Well, there's two things there. Number one, you have to find someone that you could trust, right? That's money is a very taboo thing, so we don't like to talk about it much in the open. But if you do have that one person that you could trust, maybe like you can say, hey, here's my savings balance at the start of the month. Here's where I want to be at the end of the month, and I want you to hold me accountable, right? But at the same time, that same person could be the problem, right? We've talked about that a lot on this show, like social influence, marketing, but big time social influence. Friends and family can play a role in how you spend your money. Very much like Amber just used those words. You deserve it. Oh, come on, right? That whole fear of missing out. So yeah, but having a list, writing out a predetermined list. Okay, this is what the savings is for. This is what we can use it for. If it's not on this list, we don't use it. Now, the hard part is you have to hold yourself accountable to that. But if you have an accountability person, that might be able to help as well.
And that's why I loved Ruth so much, because it just kept us in check. And that probably helped us build our habits so much faster. Just being in that group, that setting, constantly having somebody to check in with every week. It made it so much easier just to, keep ourselves in check, to keep those habits going.
Right. Well, it's like you said, though. When you look at the statistics of, personal finance, and 78% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, and most people aren't saving. It's pretty clear that most of the people that you surround yourself with, and it's not to speak badly about people, probably just aren't handling their finances very well. And those bad habits are going to rub off on you. So you got to really guard up against that. And I see it time and time again. Even inside Roots, we'll have people that do very, very well, and then they'll kind of slack off a little bit, and then I'll get an email back, right? And that email will be all about, I slid back into these bad habits, started spending money, started going out more with friends, and didn't have the money, started using debt again, right? So, but having that accountability person, that system, whatever it is, could really help you also stick to some of the savings stuff as well.
When you said accountability, I mean, that's for us. I mean, for me and my wife at the time, I mean, that was just, we were each other's accountability partners. But I would say that finding other people that you can trust is also helpful, because that has its own degree of arguments, and just because you're holding each other accountable to these new things, right? It's like, well, we really shouldn't spend that. Well, I want to. It's like, because I deserve it. And it's like, kind of like what Amber said. So for me, I think that's the big one for me, is just accountability is huge. I mean, because I think it's easy, like you said, sliding back into debt. I mean, this week, I think I got 7 credit cards this week, offers. I mean, I could be back in debt by this time next Tuesday.
Yep. Probably even faster, honestly. Hey, if you love planners, this is for you. But do you know why planners frustrate me? Because they only really get it half right. Now, sure, they're really good and fancy about helping you manage your time, which is really important, obviously. That's what a planner's for. But where they get it wrong is money, the second most valuable resource in our lives. Most planners don't include any financial planning, things like, keeping track of paydays, bills, due dates, spending, yearly expenses, budgets, cash flow planning, debt elimination plans, and goal planning, right? None of that stuff. That's a real pain. And then what? Then you got to create your own in some silly binder, right? And who has time for all of that stuff? So instead, what happens? Nothing, right? A lot of people tend to ignore their finances even more, and things only get worse. Well, that all ends today, because I am so excited to announce and release my brand new, totally awesome Debt Freedom Planner. This thing's awesome, by the way. Now, before you say, Brad, I've already got a planner. This is not an ordinary day planner. This is the Debt Freedom Planner, which is a companion tool that works with your day planner, and it's built to help you manage your money, pay off more debt, and melt away financial stress. And I believe this is the tool that a lot of people who want to take control of their finances have been waiting for. So head on over to therealdebtfreedad.com, click on the Debt Freedom Planner in the menu to get access to your planner today.
Hey, what's this I see? I thought this was a party! Let's
All right. That sound means it's time for the celebrations of the show. And today we are kicking it off with Yvette Frazier. Yvette says, I put $175 into my sinking funds. Awesome, Yvette. Great win.
Patrice Johnson paid $2,500 towards my last big credit card bill today. Feeling pumped.
Awesome, Patrice. Good for you.
Kristen Helg, I paid $1,100 towards my credit cards this week.
Awesome, Kristen. Great win. Cindy Berman, spent the day with my grandson, including lunch, all paid in cash. Love it, Cindy. Great win.
Michelle Falk-Bondren, carpooling is saving us money.
I love that. Absolutely.
And Becky DeMuth, since joining in January, Roots that is, I have paid $3,500 on debt and have $4,000 in savings. I can't believe it. A year ago, I wouldn't have believed it. There has not been a significant change in my income either.
Yeah, that's awesome, Becky. And you think about that. That's, $7,500 in about 6 months. That's the time we're recording this. I mean, that's averaging a little over $1,000 swing every single month, and not much of a change in their income. That goes to show you that habit changes, budgeting, the stuff that we're talking about, it can definitely make a big difference. So that's awesome, Becky. Congratulations to you. And congratulations to all of you who are working your way to a stress-free financial life. And hey, if you're just getting started with our podcast, or maybe you've been listening for some time and you're interested in how you can get started on the road to financial freedom, visit our website at balancesense.com or therealdebtfreedad.com and sign up for my free Life Without Payments workshop, where I'm going to actually show you the first steps that have helped tens of thousands of people just like you kick financial stress and worry for good. And thanks for hanging out with us here today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our podcast. So please leave us an honest review. We read every single one of them. And as you guys know, the Debt Free Dad podcast is here to help you live a happier and stress-free financial life. So if you know someone who could benefit from our show, please give us a share. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys on an upcoming episode. Take care. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our YouTube show. So please give us a like or leave us some honest feedback on this video. And if you want the latest from the show, obviously be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe to our channel. And for the latest resources, or if you want more information on how to kick debt and financial stress, please be sure to check out the links in this video or head over to therealdebtfreedad.com. We'll see you guys on an upcoming show. Take care.